If there is no question, please drop a thumbs up. Postgres. Why would I want to do that? Postgres is a database. There are different type of database. There are different types of database. There are some databases that save data in tables. So you draw a table, there will be rows and there will be columns. You save your data there, all the data in one file, but they are saved in tables. So Postgres, MySQL fall under that kind of category, the category of databases that save data in tables. But we are using a database that do not save data in tables. MongoDB. MongoDB saves data in a document. So instead of saving all the data in one document as a table, you use one document for one user, one document for one user, and all of them put together becomes a collection. So, but if you understand how to use MongoDB, it is very, very easy to pick up Postgres. Postgres is not like the entire backend, it's just a database. And moreover, backend is changing. Sometimes it can be working with a company that starts with a particular database, possibly MySQL. They will tell you want to switch to this database. They are not changing the entire, backend. They are simply changing a database. So you might run into those kind of companies that change database. Forgot password. Forgot password is simply you are taking the email of the user, then you find their account to confirm that they have an account with you. Then you generate a token and you send it to their email. So that's what forgot password is doing. Is verified as the same thing as verify. Now I think it depends on where you are using it. Depends on how you are using it. Ask your question. If you want the mic, if please, why did you use default here? We're exporting. Did I use default? I don't. I can't. Did I use default? I didn't use default there now. Valid email. This is not default. Export module.export. This is what I use. I didn't use default. Week 6 assignment. Just drop me a reminder so that I'll check. But I think I didn't see it as at the time I was grading. Maybe that's why. Yeah, the project is different from the milestone. The milestones are just the remaining assignments you have. How will you approach our project question for e-learning? I don't know. How do you approach a project? Until we complete the project first. Complete the project. That's if I did not remember to mark attendance. That one is gone now. All right. So welcome to today's class. Let's proceed with what we have for today. Now, we have built 4 endpoints that handle authentication. Now we want to build one endpoint that will fetch us, or maybe more than one, want to get us all the users and also get us one user possibly. Now for those persons who did the week 7 assignment, it was good. A lot of you tried. If you did it yourself, then you did well. I saw some persons doing some some logic is also fine. And the part where you're supposed to find unclaimed items. Some persons they found all the items and then filter the ones that are not claimed yet. That's also a good approach. There are so many ways to write everything. If I haven't marked it, I didn't see it at that time. So let me just drop me a reminder so that I will check again. Let's try. Now you can decode the token outside because it's JWT that actually use it. But is it on the platform? Did you use it? You are doing it outside of the platform? We're talking about within the platform. You are using it within. If I see a payload that is inside a token, what would I do with it? We're not saving password inside the token. We're not saving users account balance. We're not saving what is it called? None of those things. So there is no I this is here. So I'll try it. But the JWT we're using, we're not talking about how it works outside. We're talking about within the application. You are using it to authorize people around the application, not about seeing what is inside. Yeah, because seeing what is inside has, because it's JWT that actually decoded it, you can get it. You can get it for JWT, but the sensitive informations are not there. We're just using it as a signature for users to sign in and sign out, as the case may be, on the platform. On the platform, outside of the platform, the JWT token is not of any use. It won't do anything for us outside of the platform. But let's see what is inside. So most times, what people do is just sign the ID of the user, or maybe the ID and their role, or any information that they know they want to use to find the user. Maybe not all of the user's information, but some of them. So, but outside of the platform, the token is of no use. Wait, did it delete it? It did not. Why? I'm I'm not getting it. Why is it still loading? Oh, it's still loading. Sorry. All right, but that's by the way. Let's continue with what we have for today. I'm not sharing my screen. I'm actually sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Please, if you can see my screen, drop a thumbs up if you can see my screen. I'm actually sharing. If you can see my screen. All right, thank you. So let's proceed. The first thing here is the MVC is the model. The second one here is the views. The third one here is the controller, and addition will be the route. So this is how you structure your project. That means that you're going to be creating a folder. The first folder here will be for model. Now, you know we have model here already, the auth model. So the auth model is just one model. You might create more than one model, like 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on your project. All of those models, you need to put them inside the folder called model, whether models or model, anyone. So I'm going to create a folder here for my models, and I will drag the auth model and put inside the model. That's the first thing. So drag the auth model and put inside there. By default, it is supposed to automatically change the imports for you. It will change the import because the position of this has changed. So the import should also change. That is the first thing. The second thing, now these views is the front end. So you're not doing this one. You will leave it. The view is the front end. You're not doing it, so I'll take it out of there and just put my MVC R here. MVC then hyphen R. So you're not doing that. The next thing is the routes and the controllers. So you create a folder and you call it controllers. You create a folder, you call it controllers. You create another folder, you call it routes. So I create another folder, I'll call it routes. So this is the MVC. Whenever you build your backend and they're supposed to review it, the person who's reviewing it is looking out for these three folders: the controllers, the model, and the routes. If they see those three folders, they will rate you correct, that you know what you are doing on the back end by just seeing the names of these folders: controllers, models, and routes. There's going to be another one, which is the middleware, which I will also explain later, but this is not compulsory, it's not, but I'm going to explain it later. So we have the models, we have a file inside it. I'm going to treat that one later. The routes, I'll leave the routes for now. Let's talk about controllers. But before we talk about controllers, any question, please drop your question. All right, what is config? Config is a folder that will contain any configuration you have. For now, you don't have any configurations, but if in your project you have configurations, you can put them in the config folder. Let's say for your database connection, you can put it there. Or we're also going to see how to do the database separately. Or say there's something you are doing or that is configured somewhere, you can do that, but this is not required. You can even have a configuration and not put it inside a config folder. It's also fine. So it doesn't really change anything. You can, the most important ones are these four. You can have any other folder you want, call it helpers, call it utilities, call it config, call it lib, call it anything you want. It depends on what you decide to name your folder, but according to the international standard, these three folders are compulsory. So what are controllers? Models contain the schema and the model. The models contain the schema and the models. So what are controllers? Controllers are these functions that we write here. All of these functions are what we call controllers. These functions, they are what we call controllers. So after you write the app and you write the request type and you put the end point, what is supposed to come in here is the name of the function, not the function itself. So according to the standard, after you write your app post and the name of the endpoint, what is supposed to come next is the name of the function, not the function itself. So what do I mean? I will come here and say I want to write an endpoint to get all registered users. So I'll say all users, people who are registered on the platform. Then comma and say handle get all users. So this is how it should be. This is how it should be. You have your app, the request type, the name of the endpoint, and the name of the function. Not the function itself, but the name of the function. So I'm going to create this function somewhere. And where I will create this function is inside controller. So I'm going to create a file here and call it index.js. And inside index.js, I will create a function with this name. It is still going to be async. It is still going to accept the request and the response object like this. So this is how you define controllers. You write a function here inside your controllers, and here you then import it. So what I'll do is I will export this function now. I'll say module dot export is equal to, I'm going to be exporting more than one function, so that's how I want to export more than one functions. Then I'll come in here and make sure I am importing this function from my controllers. So that is how to set up controllers. So inside here now, you can do all the logic to get all users. This is why you then do the logic, not inside this file. So inside this file, you have your app, your get request, the name of your endpoints, and the name of the function. But in your controllers is where you keep the functions and then do the logic inside here. Any question before I continue? I put all the controller function inside controllers. Or yes, it's fine, it's fine. So long as they are inside the folder called controllers. And you can have different controllers. You can have the controllers for auth. You can have controllers for staff. You can have controllers for products. You can have controllers for, as the case may be, for deliveries. So you can have so many controllers, but all of them are inside the folder called controllers. That's the first thing. You add the get request. Later you can add the get request. So let me just write a simple request to get all users. I'll say const all users is equal to await. Go to the auth model. Make sure you import the auth model. Make sure this is imported, the auth model. Dot find. I find all of them. Now when you find all of them, return a response dot status. Response dot status and a status of 200 and a JSON message. Let's break it down. Break it. Say the message is going to be success or successful, anyhow you want to put it, and then pass in all users like that and save. So this now is following the controllers rule, having controllers and all your functions inside the controller. No, this is just, you can have just one if you want, but you can have more than one in files there. This is, you can have the auth controllers. As a matter of fact, let me just rename. No, I don't have to. Like here, he has auth controllers. Yes, you can have the same thing. Auth controllers, you know that all the functions there are related to authentication. You can have user controllers. You know that all the functions there are related to performing operations for users. You can also have product controllers that you know that The controller contains functions that manage or do anything about products only. You can have different files, but all of them must be inside controllers like that. And that is it. So I can test out this my endpoint to see that it is working. I can test it out to see that it is working, and I can get all users. So this will be local host port 5000 / all users / all users. Send the request. Now I am getting all the users. This is number one. Only one user. Are you serious? I have only one registered user. Aha. All users. I probably registered. Okay, maybe the MongoDB URLs are not the same on the two laptops. So the MongoDB URL for the other one is different from the MongoDB URL I'm using here. So I'm going to try and register another user. Let's confirm that I have more than one users. So change this and then put Y here and send. So this account has been created. I will come back to this get request and send this again. Count how many users will be returned. 1, 2. Alright, so that means the MongoDB URL are not the same for the two laptops. Okay. Yeah, at this point, Uzoma, the spelling, my spelling doesn't really matter. You know what I'm trying to type. It doesn't matter. Can you share more light on service and controllers? All right, now some users, some developers, they go further, like people like me, we go further. These controllers, we divide it into two. You can also do that if you want. What that means is anything that has to do with database, this is a controller now. This function is a controller. This first part, I'll put it inside another function, and I import that function here. So this part that is finding the user, I will put it inside another function and import that function here. Then whatever that function is returning, I send it back here. So that function that is doing this is called a service. So some people put it as a service. You can do that if you want something like this. You create a service folder. You create a folder and you call it service. And inside the service, you can create the first file. Let's say auth service or any service you want, index.js. And inside the index.js, I will create a function called find user is equal to await. Is it a function? No, I'm using await. Is equal to a function like this, and make this async function. And I will come in here, bring this one, copy it, and then put it inside this function. Make sure to import this, otherwise it will not work. Import this auth is imported, and then say return the users that you have found. Return all users, and then save it. I can then export this module.export. You must export it, otherwise you cannot use it outside. So I must export this file, copy it, put it here, and save. So my service is only doing one thing, to find the user. That is all, and return the users. Find the users and return the users. Then I will come inside this controller. Instead of putting all of this here, I will remove it and put my service here. Import the service here. Okay, my service is supposed to be here. Why is it not coming here? Save this. Try importing it again. It's not coming here. Why? Module.exports. Yeah, module.exports with S. Come back and try it again. It's back. So, and then save it. So this is what people do for services, not people. I do it. You can break the controllers into two. The part that relates to the database, you put it inside the service. The part that doesn't, you keep it inside your controllers. And if I test this function, it will still run. So if I send it now, it's still running. But all users is returning empty. Why? Returning an empty all users. So let's try again. Const user. Oh, I did not say await. You have to do await. That's why it's coming back empty. You have to wait for it to find all the users. So come back again and check it. If I send this request, now it's returning all users. So that's how people use services. But it's not compulsory that you must use service, but a lot of us do it these days. Like call us senior developers, we do it these days. You put controllers, you put service. Controllers, you're just dividing the controllers into two to create a service. All right, so I don't understand the explanation now. The explanation we're talking about is MVC, following the international standard MVC. Inside the MVC, we've been able to group our models. So that means we created a file. We have this model already. We just put it inside a folder for models. So all the models you will create, all of them will be inside one folder called models. The second thing is the controllers. The controllers is this part of your API. The function in your API is what we call controllers. So internationally, it is said or encouraged that instead of putting the function here, instead of putting the entire function here, put the name of the function here and write the function in another file. So you put the name of the function, which is what I did here. Normally, I'm supposed to write the function here after all users. Next will be to write the function directly. But instead of writing the function directly, I put the name of the function. Then go over, create controllers, and create a file. Inside this file is where I put that function. Inside here is where I put that function. The function that is supposed to be here, I put it inside this file. Now make sure when you put the name here, you import it. Otherwise, it will not work. And for those who are building backend, how do you build backend and you're not running it? Build it with backend, run it with Postman, run it, see that MongoDB is connected, your server is running, and then send a request with Postman. That's what makes you a backend developer. If you build it, well, I understand that time constraint and all of that, you just copy it, but run it first. So make sure it's running. That is the idea of controllers, but you can still take it a step forward or further and say you want to divide your controllers into service and controllers. So what I had here before was the auth.find. This is how you find all the users. So this is just my own controllers, but I am saying you can still take it a step further and put this line inside another function. It's not compulsory. Nobody will judge you if you don't put it inside another function as a service. Nobody judges you, but we do it these days a lot. We senior developers will do it. We also encourage junior developers to do it. As a matter of fact, nobody is a junior developer actually. I don't believe that. Everybody is a developer. If you want to call yourself junior, it's fine, but everybody's a developer. So you can put this part inside another function, which is what I did. So I created a new folder, call it service, and create a file inside there. Inside that file, I added a function, and that function has only this line. This line that was here before, only this line. That's what I put in my service. So when you find the users, you return the users. Find the users and return the users. So by the time you return the users, it means anywhere you call this function, you know that this function is returning all users. Wherever you call this function is returning all users. So you can call this find user service. So this is the service to find users. So I can then come in here and then rename this one here, change it here, and remove this and add the find user service. So if I do this now, it will start working again. And I did not change what I exported, so I need to change what I exported so that it will work fine. So that is the idea behind controllers and service. So it means that going forward, you should not write these functions inside here. Rather, write these functions inside a different file and then import the name of the function to be here, exactly as I did here. That is one MVC rule. So the next one is this we call, now I'm going to skip this route for now. I have a reason for doing that. It's very important. And move to what we call middlewares. Middlewares is very, very important. What are middlewares? The first thing you want to do is to create a folder and call it middlewares. If you create a folder and you call it middlewares and save. Middlewares is a folder or is a function that runs in the middle. What do I mean? For example, this is an API. This is a complete API. The request will hit your app. The app will determine that is a GET request that is made to this endpoint, and then this function is going to handle the request. But a middleware is going to be inside here, in the middle here. That's what the middleware is. A middleware is a function that runs in the middle from the point where the request enters your backend application to the point where the API handles the application. A middleware will run. So that is what a middleware is. See, a middleware is mostly used for validation, authorization, for things that you don't want to overload your API. You don't want to overload your controllers. Your controllers are already doing much, so you don't want your controllers to handle validations. For example, you are asking the person to send their email. You don't want to check that inside your controller. So you don't want to come here and say, if no, you don't want to do that. You want to put it inside another function. That function, the job of that function is just to check whether the user is sending emails. So I'll take it again. By my own definition, a middleware is a function that runs in the middle, like the name. This is middle, you know. This is middle. It is a function that runs in the middle from the point where the request enters the API to the point where the API handles the request. The function that runs in the middle is called a middleware. And if this middleware does not permit it, it will not reach this function. It will not reach your controller. For example, you can use a middleware for authorization. Let's say, just like what the police do. So see a middleware function as a policeman. You are or a gate man. You are trying to enter a compound with your car. The gateman or the policeman will tell you park to the left. You park your car. They'll tell you bring your papers. You bring car insurance. You bring fire extinguisher. You bring so many things that are required. So the middleware will check for all of those things. If they are complete, the middleware will say, "Oh yeah, continue going, keep going." But if those things are not complete, the middleware will turn you back there immediately. it turns you back. So the request will not even get to the controllers. It will not. So these middlewares are seen as gatemen and the API. Before the request is being handled, the API is going to check that. Yes, you can call that a middleware if we had put it inside here. Of course, it's a middleware. This is where I normally put mine here. Now the thing is this: you can have more than one middlewares. You can have so many middlewares. The first middleware can be the middleware that checks that the person is logged in. That's the first one. You can have another middleware that checks that the person is an admin. Yeah, that's also a middleware to check that this person making this request is an admin. So that means before the API, the controllers is going to handle that request, this middleware is going to check that your token, the token you have, is actually a token that belongs to an admin. Or maybe you want to check that the person is actually a student or anything. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 middlewares, or as many as the case may be inside here. And all of them will be checking for different things. They'll be checking for different things. So that's what middlewares are. Let's write one middleware. To write that middleware, I'm going to cut this function. I'll cut this function out of here. Cut the function. You see the bracket is still remaining. I didn't cut with the bracket. I remove just the function. The function is this try catch. You see, this part, this last bracket is not part of the function, but it starts from this curly braces to this async. That's the function. This bracket is not part of the function. So I'm going to cut from the curly braces to the async. I will cut it out with Ctrl C or Ctrl X rather. Then come to my controllers and create another function that will handle user login registration rather. Handle user registration. User registration is going to be this, and then it's going to be a function. No. Paste the function here now. I'll paste the function. So I did not write anything. I just cut the function and I paste the function here like that. No, nothing much. So this is where the function starts. This is where the function ends. All I did was to write const, put the name of the function, put equal to, and paste the function here. This is how you divide it into a controller. So I'm going to export the name of this function here, save it, come back to my this thing here and paste the name of the function here, import it, make sure it's imported from your controllers, make sure it's imported, and then save it. The reason why I'm doing this is on user login, I'm expecting the user to send me some details. I'm not going to be doing this email thing here. I'll not do it here. I'm not going to be doing this one here. I will not do it here. I'm not going to be doing this password thing here. So these three validations will be done in the middleware, not inside my controllers. Not inside controller, but in the middleware. So this is how it is done. This is how I do it actually. I'm going to create a file here, call it index.js. Now you can call it anything. You can call it authentication middleware. You can call it the middleware based on what it is doing. But I'm just going to call my index. So I'm going to create a function here called validate register or validate user register, anyone you want to call it. It's just the name of the function that is important. So I'll put this function, and here I'm going to now accept the request and the response, because I want to take the request from the body. Whatever they are sending in the body, that's what I want to validate. So I will come here and accept what they are sending in the body of the request is equal to request.body, and they are going to be sending me email, password, last name, first name, all of these informations. Whatever I want to validate, I'll take that. and I come here, paste it here. Yeah, so I have these here now. I have this here now. Then the next thing I want to do is I will create an array, an empty array for errors. Now, for now, I want to validate. That means there's going to be possibly some of these things may not exist. You may have one that doesn't exist. You may have multiple. So if multiple doesn't exist, I'll just put all of them inside this array and send it back to the user. I'll come here and then say if not email. If not email, I want to push to the errors array, errors dot push to that array. What I want to add there is say please add your email. That's one. I can also say if not password, if not password, if not password to the errors array. I want to push in an error message there. Push an error message that will say please add your password. Your password, like this. So I'm going to add this. Then I will say if errors dot length is greater than 0. Some persons make mistake with this kind of checks. So I'm trying to check when this thing, the length of this array is greater than 0. For it to be greater than 0, it means it has one message inside or two messages, as the case may be. So whenever it is greater than 0, that means that's an error message. I don't want to proceed. I want to return. I want to return a response.status, and the status is going to be maybe 400 or so, or 404, bad request, anyone. Status, not status again, sorry, JSON, and the JSON message is going to be this errors. So I'm sending all of the errors that will be inside this array as the message back to the user. So I will save it, export this function, I'll come here, I'll say module.export is equal to, paste that here and save. So inside here, in the middle here, I'm going to put that validate function, this thing, put it here and separate with comma. So if the request enters here now, this middleware is going to ask the request to pack first. Pack, show me your email, show me your password. Then if it's complete, it will proceed. Otherwise, it will not proceed. Until this middleware is satisfied, the request will not proceed into the controllers. So I will save this. What's the question? So can we make use of express validator here? As the case may be, it's not fine. You can actually make use of any validator, anyone you want. Inside here, you can. Anyone you want, you can do it inside here. So I'm going to try registering now without my email or password, and let's see what is going to happen. So I will remove the email, keep it empty, remove the password, and send this request. The server crashed. It says HHH. Oh, where did I write that HHH again? I wrote that HHH somewhere here. Sorry. And save it again. Let's check that it's working now. So if I send this request, now you see I have an array of error messages. The first one says please add your email. The second one says please add your password. So as the case may be, you can add so many messages, and the middleware is going to pause Until the middleware is satisfied, the request will not proceed. But what if I provide data? I provide data like this. Now we're not using the validation here, so I've already shown you how to use that, so I'm going to leave that. So if I send this request, now the request is hanging. The reason why it is hanging is because the request has not entered the controllers. The request has not entered the controllers. Okay, exactly. That is where I was coming to now. That's where I was coming to now. I was coming to this. If you look at it, I have provided my email that is requested for. I've also provided the password that is requested for. The request is still hanging at the middleware until the middleware says proceed to the next. Proceed to the next. This request will not proceed anywhere. So until the policeman say move, you will not move. You will wait there and you keep asking questions. Why are we here? What are we doing here? Until the middleware says move to the next, proceed to the next. And how do you do that? It means inside the middleware, while you are accepting the response, you are also accepting the next function. You call this next function only when the middleware is satisfied and there are no errors. So that case means at the end here, you can call next like this. Because you know that if there is an error here, this is going to return. Because of the return keyword, it will not reach here. But if it reaches here, it means there are no errors. So if you don't call this next function, the request will keep hanging. It will not proceed to the controller or maybe to the next middleware. That is if you have more than one middlewares. So this next here simply means I am done with next. If there is another middleware, that middleware will start its own. Once that one is done, it will say move to the next. All right, so this next here is very, very important. Without it, the request will not proceed to the next. So I will save it now and then come back to my postman and send this request again. I have an error. Okay, the server is still restarting. It has not started. My MongoDB has not connected. I'm waiting for it to connect. Yeah, MongoDB is connected now. So if I send this request, it's supposed to create that account. It says invalid email. Email is not defined. That is because in my controller, I am still doing this. So this is what is showing invalid. I think so. Where am I getting invalid? I think this is what is actually throwing invalid email. So what I would do is I'm just going to write something that looks like an email. Say davidshift@gmail.com like this, and then send the request again. Still valid email is not defined. Oh, valid email is not defined. So I did not import this when I changed from controllers. Okay, I did not import this, so I'll save it again. Waiting for this to connect, waiting for MongoDB to connect. It's connected. Now send the request again. You should create a user account. bcrypt is not defined. Oh, I did not import bcrypt. Where are all those things? I should just be importing them one by one. I did not import bcrypt. bcrypt. Let me import bcrypt like this. So I'm going to come here and say const bcrypt. Bcrypt is equal to require bcrypt.js. So the reason why I had to import it manually is because the name of what I installed is not the name of what I'm importing. So it will not pick it up automatically. If I was using bcrypt.js as the name, it's going to pick it automatically. But let me check if there is something else I am not importing. Is there any other thing I'm not importing? None. So I'm going to save it now and try the request again. MongoDB connect. It's connected. So send this request now. Now the user account has been created. So this is how we use middlewares. This is how we use. Now you can have so many middlewares here. You can have one for registration, which is what we have here. You can have one for login. You can have one for creating. Maybe they want to create a wallet, or they want to fund a wallet. They want to do transfer, or they want to upload properties. So you can have middlewares to check all of that, to make sure that the payload, the data that the backend requires, they are sending it to you. That's what the middleware does. So by international standard, this is how the structure of your backend should be. All right. Any question before we proceed? We want to talk about authorization using middlewares. Any question before we proceed? If there is no question, please drop a thumbs up. Next is not defined. First, you have to accept next. Inside here, while you are accepting the request and the response objects, you need to accept the next function here also before you can call it. You need to accept the next function here also. Otherwise, it will say not defined. Awesome. All right, let's proceed to the next function. We want to talk about validation. Validation is not in the controller. No, you are going to create a folder, call it middlewares. This is middleware. This is where you put your validations. The validation functions, you put them inside the middleware folder like this. All right, so when we talk about authorization, we're going to create another function here to call it authorization. So I'll create another function called, now you don't have to call it authorization. I do call mine auth just for short. I call it auth for short. If it's admin auth, I can call my admin auth for admin. I can call it staff auth. I can call it any auth. So you can call it auth for short, or you call it authorization like this. How is export next? We don't export next. No. What you do is in the middleware, you accept next here, and if this thing runs without error, you call the next function. That's all you do. The next is the last thing that you call, and you make sure you are validating that when there is no errors. You check that there is no errors before you call this. So onto authorization. When you come to Postman and you open this, you will see here that it says authorization. Authorization, this is the authorization we are talking about. Before you make this request, before you make a request to any backend, you need to be authorized to do that. And the authorization is simply the JWT token that was generated for you. So the front end will always be sending you that token. And on Postman, or maybe for the backend, we call that token the bearer token. That's what we call it. We call it the bearer token. That bearer token is what you will accept as a user, or no, as a backend developer. You decode the token, you compare it and verify that it is your own. The token contains the information that you have in your .env. Then you can give that user a go ahead to perform their duties or whatever it is. So how do we do it? I'll come here. First off, you know what? Let's just come here and I'll say const token is equal to, you get the token from the request. So I have to accept request and the response here. So you get the token from the request headers, request.headers dot authorization. Do I have authorization or this authorization? Which one? Let me go like this, authorization. Yeah, so in the request headers, there will always be authorization. So what I'll do is I'll just console log it to see that we are getting the token. Sorry, CLG. Why am I not getting request header? Yeah, console log the token. Put it inside an object. I just want to be sure that I am getting the token first before I try to decode it. So I'll copy this, export this middleware, and save it. Save the middleware. I'm going to put this middleware inside where you want to find all users, because we want to make sure that the person who's trying to find all users is authorized to find all users. So this is where I'm putting that authorization. Now you're going to put these authorizations in any of the endpoints that you know is not public. Anyone you know that the users must be logged in. Anywhere you know it has to be personalized. It's not public. It's not for anybody. So you put that authorization in that endpoint. So I'm putting it here. I will save this now. I don't remember the password I used to log in. How do I get that token? So to get that token, you must log in. If you don't log in, you will not get the token. Okay, I already have a token here, but maybe this token would have expired because I think we set expiry to within 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to send it again to see whether I will get another token. Yeah, I got a token. I'll copy this token. This is the token we need. So I'll copy it. Yes, you can have multiple middlewares in one route. You can. So please follow along so that you don't get lost. I will come back to where I am making that request. Go over to authorization. Now you can add it to the headers. That's a different way, but the easiest way is to add it as a bearer token. So I'll paste the token inside this token. Preview it and send the request. So if I send this request, the request crash. It says request.headers is not defined. Request.headers is not defined. I think I made a mistake with the headers. It's not supposed to be headers, but header. Not headers, but header. Request header, and then save it. So I'll try again. I made the mistake with that spelling. Okay, send the request again. All right, now you see that it is hanging, and I want to believe I explained why it is hanging. Now if you check my console, I can see the token. I have gotten the token. The token was sent alongside this request. The token was sent alongside this request. I am getting the token in my middleware until I decode this token and confirm that the person who sent this token, number one, the token is from me and the person who sent it is a user on the platform, this request will not proceed. This request will not proceed. So at this point, I can decide to turn this user back, send them back, like come back here and say, for example, if no token. So I can say if no token, if the user doesn't send the token, I want to return a response dot status. Now this is where we use 401 or 403 or 402, any of them that has to do with authorization. But I'll use 401 and say for 401 put a message. The message will be please log in. Either please log in or please log in now, because it only means that this person has not logged in. Because if you don't have a token, it means you've not logged in. If you've logged in, the user the front end is supposed to send yes, any which way is fine. If you go like this, is fine. This one works fine. Most times I actually don't do this. Rather, what I'll do is no, this is fine. You can do both. You can also add the second one, the brother, which is a / and then the one I was trying to do the first time, request.header dot authorization, like that, as the case may be. You can also add, I think this one worked once, but I only use this one most times. I use this most times, but you are free to do this just in case. But most times it is always capital letter, because if you look at postman, it is capital letter, like that. The request body is where they send you payload, the information, the data you are asking for. The header is for authorization, like call it a placard, or you just want to know who is logging in. So there are some where a user can send, the front end can send you data. They can send it in the params, they can send it in the headers. This is the headers. If I open the headers, they can send you in the headers, they can send you in the body, but most times authorization is sent in the header, most times, to avoid third parties. Other times it's also sent in the cookies to avoid third parties interference, and so on and so forth. All right. Okay. Can we have multiple middleware? Yes, I've explained this. Let's say we have more than one token to decode in the authorization and postman. That is user token, admin token, user token to know if the registered user. No. You don't give two tokens to decode. You give only one token for either the admin or the user, but you can separate them either using their role, based on their role, but you use one token at a time, not two of them. One. Is it only token that is in the request header? There are other things that could be in the request header, but most times the header is used for tokens only. Tokens only. How can you say, okay, okay, this one, use this one. For now, use this one. All right, so that's the case. I'm going to proceed to the next. The next thing I want to do is to show you what happens if I don't send this token. I'm going to remove the token. There is no token. If I send this request, it is going to bounce back. It has bounced back. It didn't even enter the controllers. So the middleware is going to bounce it back and say, please log in. Now, until you send the token, if you send the token, the function, the request is still going to keep hanging. It is hanging and waiting for the backend to decode it. Now, in decoding it, if you look here, you will see that we have bearer here, the keyword bearer. We have bearer here, and we have the real token. The real token starts from here to here. The bearer here, we don't need this bearer. There is a space between the two of them. So what we will do is to split these two things. Split them by this space that is between the two of them. This is the token and this is the bearer. We don't need the bearer. What we need is the token. So what I will do, the next step will be to, where am I? Here. The next step will be to get the token. So I'll say const split token. Split token is equal to take the token and split it. Split it by where we have space. Split that token by where we have space. So if you look here, we have space here. So it's going to split these two things. This one will become one. This one will become the second one. So when you split it, console log it for me. Console log it. Console log the split token and save it. So I'm going to try and send the request again. Says, why would the token expire in 5 minutes when there is a refresh token? Yeah, token will always expire, but the refresh token can be used to regenerate the token if need be, only when there is a need for it. So I'm going to send this again. The request is hanging. Now I have an array. In this array, the first item is the bearer, while the second item is the token. So after you split it, the way I've done mine here, it's going to turn into an array. The first item will be the bearer. The second item will be the token. So what I will do is to select the real token. So I'll say const real token. Const real token is equal to split token, which is an array. The split token is the array, and I'm selecting the second one. Select the second one and then console log it here. CLG console log the real token. Why am I not getting IntelliSense? Console log the real token. And save. So the first step is to split it, then select the second one, and then let's console log it again and see what is there this time. So if I send this request, now I have only the token. I don't have the bearer anymore. So now that I have the token, now that I have this token, I can then decode this token. I can decode this token. What I will do is to bring in JWT, because JWT generated the token. So I'm going to bring in JWT to decode it again. So I'm going to bring JWT to decode the token. Require JSON web token. Where's JSON web token? JSON web token. So I'm going to come here and say decoded token const decoded or result anyone is equal to JWT dot verify. Inside there, I will pass in the real token. The real token. Why am I not getting IntelliSense? Passing the real token, and where is that? Here. I'm going to also pass in this access token because this is what I use to generate it. So I want it to verify that the token that's sent to me has this thing inside it. If it doesn't have it inside it, it should return it. So I'll come here and say, sorry, this dollar exclamation mark process .env access token. So decode it, be sure that inside this token I have this thing here. So if not decoded, I can, let's just console log what is going to come out inside the decoded. So I'm going to copy this and console log what will come out inside the decoded. I was going to add another line to say if not decoded, but let's see what comes out first. So now that server is running. Send this request again. We have sent it. We come here. I saw JWT has expired. Oh no. So JWT has expired. We're going to extend. Let's extend how long it takes for JWT to expire. Because it has expired, you can't use it anymore. We put it to expire in 5 minutes. So it has passed 5 minutes. So I'm going to put let's say 5 hours. So my JWT token should expire in 5 hours. I'll save this again and try to log in again. Sorry guys, it happens. So after this has started, I'm going to log in again. Then copy this token and send this one as the new token. So come back here, remove this one, paste the new token, and then send the request. All right, so here you see that we are getting the ID of the user, and we are getting when the token was generated and when the token is supposed to expire. So we are getting the ID of the user. What do you do next? I'm going to add that condition, because we always validate everything. So we're going to say if not decoded, like if not, if there is no response, maybe it expired or anything like that, and you want to return. I want to return a response.status of maybe 402 if I want, or maybe 403, anyone. I think I use 402 better. Use 401 or 4. You know what? Let's stick to 401. Just use 401, and then return a message that will say maybe invalid authentication or unauthorized user. Any message that actually invalid login. Any message that our user unauthorized. You know what? Let me just put back the please login. Say please login. You can put any other message that you feel it's okay by you. Please log in. So, but what I want to do, okay, decoded. Sorry, I would have had an error. So the next step is now that I'm getting the ID here, I want to find the user that has this ID. I'm getting an ID. I want to make sure that this user exists on the database. If it doesn't exist, we're going to return. But if it exists, then we proceed. So the next thing I want to do is to find the user. I'll say const user is equal to await. Go to the auth model dot find by ID. Find by ID. And then pass in the decoded dot, is it underscore? I think it's underscore. Okay, it's not underscore, it's just ID. So passing the decoded dot ID. This should return the user that tried to log in. So let's console log the user, but we already know what will happen when there is no user. So we validate again and say if not user, return res dot status 404 dot JSON message and a message that will say user account does not exist or user account not found. Any of the messages, user account does not exist. Exists like this and save it. But let's see the user that owns that ID in our console log. So this has restarted. I will come back to Postman and send a request again. It crashed. Why? Why did it crash? Okay. Oh, this thing already crashed here before. It says await. I am using await without the async. I'm using await while the function is not async. It has to be async. All right. I think that's the function. Is that not the function? Async. Yes. Now, why is the await? Yeah, it has picked up. So it said, well, can we also put tokens in env in quotes like we did for mongoose? You can, because if you look at it, I'm actually adding it as a string. You can if you want. Yeah, this is actually making the quote. So even though it's not a string in my .env, by the time it comes here, it becomes a string. So you can add it as a string if you want. Then there won't be the need for this again. I don't think so. We're just using, this is how you concatenate a variable. This is how you bring in a variable. Now you can actually go directly like this. You can. I can remove this like this and add it directly, but not in all cases. Yeah, like in this case now, it doesn't work. Not in all cases, but some places I can do that. Why is IntelliSense not coming up fast? Okay, decoded instead of again. Did I do that again? Okay. All right. Thank you. Why are you using ID not token? Are you following the class? We have passed the ID now. Now the token, we've gotten the token, we split the token, we selected the token, and we have decoded the token. Inside the token, we found an ID inside the token. So we are now using that ID to find who that ID belongs to. That is why we are using ID. What if it's a string in env? It's fine, it's going to work. Just go ahead. So what I want to do is now find who that user is by saving this and try to find who the user is. By sending a request, this is still hanging because I have not called next, but here I have the user information, the user that owns that account. I see their ID here, I see their email, I see their password, their first name, their last name, their state, whether they are verified or not. I see the date it was created and all of that. So because I can see the user now, it means that I have successfully verified the token. It is mine. I have found the user. Yes, the user exists on the database. So I want to attach the user to the request. I say is equal to user and then call the next function like this. So this is the end of the authorization. It goes step by step. The first thing is to accept the token from the request header. And if there is no token, you want to tell them to please log in. Second thing is to split the token, because there's going to be the bearer keyword attached to it. So you split it by where you have space. There's always space between the two of them. If you split it, it becomes an array of 2 items. You select the second one, that is the token. When you select the token, you then bring in JWT to verify that that token has your access token inside it. If it doesn't, you also tell them, please log in. But if it does, there's going to be an ID in it. You find the user that has that ID. If there is no user, you return that the user account does not exist. But if a user exists, you want to attach that user to the request, and you bid them bye-bye, continue the journey. And it's going to continue the journey in trying to find the user. So it's supposed to find all users. So this should actually complete. Now, if I send this, it should go ahead, and it says next is not defined. Next is not defined because I did not accept next here. You have to accept next here before you call the next function. Otherwise, this is going to throw is not defined. Thank you. I message earlier. Thank you. So if I come back here, be sure that these are connected. Yeah, this is connected now. And if I come and send this request now I'm getting all the users. So it means that whoever is making this request has been authorized to make this request. That is what authorization means on the back end. Now, it's not going to fail if you pass in the right token, but if it fails, it means you are not authorized to perform this. Now, this is just for normal users. If it is for admin, by the time you find this user, you are going to check whether the role of the user. Now, if you look here, you see that we don't have role assigned here. But assuming we created these users with a role, and after you find the user, you will then check whether the role of the user is admin. If it is not admin, you want to return invalid authentication. But if it's admin, then you call next function. So that is the difference between the normal authorization and the admin authorization. Now, the admin authorization can also be used for agents, people who upload properties. So it means you need to assign a role to agents. And by the time you are authorizing them, you check whether their role here is agent. If it's not agent, you return and say invalid authentication or authorization. So, but that's just it. Somebody's asking, what is this thing doing here? So, by attaching the user to the request, this means that I cannot get access to who this user is in my controllers. So I can go to my controller here. Here, I already know who the user is because I have already attached that user to the request. So if I come here, sorry, I want to get this and say console log for me the user, the request.user. So I will not send any response so that it should be hanging. Now I know who the user is. So if I save this, and see that it's connected, I come back to post one. So send this request again. It's now logging the user. So that is what the request.user is doing. In some cases, you might want to find, for example, when the user logs in, exactly, let's do it here. we're supposed to do that in the reset password. So in the reset password, we're supposed to add this authorization here. And inside this authorization, we'll put it here. The reason is because we don't want to reset their password with their email. They are not sending us email again. So rather, we are going to find them by the request.user and the email that is in that user. So that means if you attach the user to the request, you don't need to ask the user to send you their email again, because you must find out who is making the request. If the person is the right person, attach that user to the request, and then you can pick up their email from that request without having to ask them to send this again. The same thing for their wallet. You don't need to ask them to send you their ID again, because you can decode their ID from their token, attach it to the user. So all of the user information, you already have it. You can use it to do anything you want on the back end. So ladies and gentlemen, that is authorization. That means we can have two middlewares, one that works on normal authorization, another goes to further check exactly. You can do that if you want, or you can have two. Yeah, you can have one. That one can do everything for admin. Then you have another one separately for a user. Or can we import the second person goes for that? You can also do that. If you know how to do it, you can also do that. Do you have recommendation for site to apply for internship? Start with LinkedIn. There are a lot of them on LinkedIn. Find LinkedIn for now. Take LinkedIn. There's also on Twitter. There are so many jobs. I think there is Indeed. There are so many of them. Just fine. But if you don't know, you can always Google them or go on Twitter. Find the site that you can apply for on Twitter. Can you help us how to develop a professional portfolio? A portfolio is a front end, but you don't have to do that if you know how to. You know what? Let's talk about portfolio later. But that's, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you handle authorization. Any question? Any other question before? I want to end here. I don't want. I think I've treated middlewares, authorization, validation, controllers. So I think what's remaining will be routes and possibly to deploy the project. Admin roles. What it means is this. In my models, I'm going to add roles here. I will add roles and set the type of the role to be a string. The type is going to be string, and then set the default value is going to be user. The default role is going to be user. Put comma here. Default role. Why is it not? Do I have two roles? No, I don't. Now why is the comma not working? Say expected comma. I've added the comma now. Yeah. So save it. Now, if anybody creates an account now, by default, their role is going to be users. But what you can do is go to MongoDB directly on MongoDB. If you know your clusters, go to MongoDB and change the role for that user to become an admin. That is for the person you want to be an admin. It's not everybody. Admin, you do just one admin. So you come in here. Okay, how do I log in? I'll come to that. Can we have a refresher on this? Some of us are new. That is why we have recordings. You can have recordings and watch them. They will refresh for you. That's why. So explain to use authorization and the reset password. Now, If you have been able to decode the token, the reset password is already complete. All you need to do is add the middleware here in between the function and the endpoint. Add the middleware here, but you know that in the middleware you are attaching the user details to the request. So because you are attaching the user details to the request, and you also know that the email exists on the user, so there is no need asking them to send email again. All you do is validate the user, know who the user is, then pick out their email from the request and use that to find them. You don't need to ask them to send another email again. So that is the explanation for it. Every other thing remained the same. Every other thing remained the same. The only thing we did was, instead of the email that we're asking them to send, we are now getting the email from the user that is attached to the request. Like that. Do Google Auth operating using this simple authorization? Maybe not today. If there is time, maybe not today. Watch the videos, you're going to get a refresher. Well done. So is it okay to use arrays of string to define? Yes, 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 you can use that. You can do that. But can we get what? All right. Okay, so any other question? I want to end today's class here. We're going to come back. So for people who are handling admin routes only, I want to believe with this explanation, with this class, you should be able to do that. Make sure that the user making that request is logged in. So when you hear, make sure that the user making that request is logged in. All they are asking you to do is to decode the token, which is this. Make sure the user making that request is logged in. All right. Any other question before we call it a day today? Wait a minute. Okay, I'm still recording. All right. So we weren't able to add the role keyword. Add the role now. It's not difficult to add the role. Add the role. Any user you create now is going to have that role. When you add the role, for the people that you want to be admin, you have to go to MongoDB directly. You have to go to MongoDB directly and change their role. Let me go and change one role. So you have to go to MongoDB and change their role to become admin. So by default, their role will be users. Let me create, I'm going to create an account so that we see that that user's role is a user. So let me change this to extra, like put an S and send this request. This is, wait a minute. I didn't get the role back. Okay, I'm only sending these few things. I'm not sending the role back. So if I try to log in with this username and password, so let's log in with this username and password. Body, change this password, come back to the email, copy this email, and try to log in with this email, paste it, and send. So I have the token. I'm not still getting the role. I think we're selecting it out. We are cutting it out. Like in the registration, I don't think we're sending back everything. Yeah, what are we sending? No, we're not sending back everything. So that is why we can attach the role if we want, but that's not a big deal. Let me show you how to change a user's role from a user to admin in case you want to do that. And because you have to validate that that person making the request, their role is admin, as in you're checking that the string admin is there. Otherwise, you return. So you open your cluster, you go to your cluster, you view the cluster or you browse the cluster, whatever keyword is there, you find that particular user's account, that person, and then you click on their role and manually type in admin. That's how it's done. You manually type in admin and then save. Simple. So this is the cluster. You click on cluster. Wait, I think I have one for CareerEx. This is CareerEx. I'm still waiting for it to load, but while we are waiting, if you have any question, you can drop them. If you have any question, so I'll click on cluster. This is cluster. You click on browse collections. Browse collections is where you see all the collections. All the data are going to be here. So you search through. Now you try to create your admin account. You can also write a controller that will do this. You can write a controller that is going to take a user and change their role to admin. If you want, you can do that. But manually, no, it doesn't have to be capital T. It doesn't have to be capital T. Enum is going to be, I thought you said you want to use an array. Use an array for this and then set the default to user. Yeah, it's fine. So small letter, capital letter, your enum, use an array for this and set the default to user. So I have this and I just hope that, okay, this is the user I created. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, just go a little. Yeah, so this is the user I created, and the role here says user. So what you want to do is double click here and manually write it admin. So now if I come down and update, it becomes an admin. So this is how you can change it from user to admin, or even change it to agent, as the case may be. You come in here, find that particular user and update their details to maybe agent or admin. So let me change this to admin and then update that. So if I update that, I can come back here now and log in again. Oh, we're not going to see the user because we're not Alright guys, welcome back. Sorry for that short break. The network providers tried to cut me off. So for NIN, you use it the same way you are using the email. Nothing new. the same name. Now the role is different. Their role is different. You are having different roles: agent role, user role, and admin role. What I wanted to do was to also return the role of the user here, because on login we are not returning their role. So I want to return their role and say it is the user dot role and save it, so that when the user logs in, I want to know their role. You can also send that to the front end too. Yeah, so you're using NIN the same way you use email. All right, so let's log in the user and see what role the user has now. I've logged in. Now you see their role here says admin. You know that the token I used here, this token here, is a different user, different from the one I have here. So what I want to now do is go to my validation and make sure that it is only admins that is doing this. Now, you don't do this for everybody. You do it for only admin. So you say if user dot role is not equal to admin. If the user role is not equal to admin, you want to return a response with a status that will say 402, 401, 40, yeah, anyone. The JSON message and say invalid authorization. Invalid, because this is only for admin. Invalid authorized. Sorry, I think I'm already tired, so we'll stop it here. Invalid authorization. It doesn't have to be capital letter, but just take this one like that. All right. Just keep the capital letter. It's not capital letter. It has to be small letters. To use role is I want to remove the rest. Hope you are not confused. I think we've done a lot. A lot. There's some people seeing comments. I'm no longer seeing where is fail, Sarah, where wisdom, where is a Raf, where I just hope you are not confused. But again, this is all there is. I don't want to do this for everybody. You only want to do this for the admin. All right. Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Sorry, I'm muted. So I was saying with these few points of mine, I hope that you are not confused with what we have done so far, because I haven't been hearing from a few persons. I didn't hear from a few persons, but I hope you are not scared that it is difficult or you are not confused, as the case may be. But again, I think we've done pretty the basics. So these things we're doing now are just like topping it up to finalize the backend. All right, fine. I need to assess the person. We're a little confused about. Yeah, go through the videos. I've also updated the code base. Go through the video, go through the code base. We still come back next week. Classes are supposed to end next week so that you have time to work on the project. So go through the project. If you have any question, you come back tomorrow, not tomorrow, on next week, or this week actually, on Saturday, and then we can answer your questions. So if there's no other questions and you are okay to end the class here, please drop a thumbs up so that we can end today's class here. If there is no question and you are okay to end the class, please drop a thumbs up so that we can end the class here. All right, guys. Thank you. See you on Saturday. Bye.